Hello again. Let's continue our discussion of CSS. In this video, we're going to define some styles for a nav bar. So, looking at the demo page here, you can see I have a section here called nav bar, and then there's a nav bar down here. It's a little hard to tell where it is because it doesn't have any styles, but essentially this is the nav bar. Okay. The markup for the nav bar looks like this. We have a div with a class named Navbar, and then we have a UL with a list of links inside it. And, if we look at the actual markup here, I can see like this is the Navbar. Okay, so we're going to define some styles on the Navbar class, and we're going to assume that there's a list inside the Navbar. Okay, so we want to arrange this, all the items inside this list, right? And if we take a look at Bootstrap, we can look at the Bootstrap Nav Bar and take a clue from what they've done, right? So if we look at this, is actually a complicated nav bar here. It's essentially, ours is about the same, right? We have some kind of container here called nav bar, and then we have a list of links inside it. Okay. Yeah, here's what their nav bar looks like. It's kind of a light gray with the words in it kind of in a row, right? I'm trying to find another example here with a list of links. I guess they have some dark, light, and primary color markup there. But anyway, you can look through this and see what Bootstrap does, okay? So we don't have to add all the features. Theirs is pretty involved. We just need to get the links to appear in a row, right? And then anybody can customize or change the links, and they can change what the title says or put something else there, okay? So let's get our markup here, right? And looking at the style sheet here, I'm going to add a new comment down here called navbar, and I'm going to make the navbar class. Okay, so there I have a navbar class now, and then anything inside the this div is going to be our navbar, right? So why don't we give this a background color, right? I'm going to set the background color. Let's use one of the colors from our variables. So I'm going to use maybe the foreground color here, right? You can see everything is dark there. Maybe let's make all the text here the background color, right? So it'll be actually the lighter color, right? Like the color here, we'll use that as the background here. So we'll say color foreground, color light. There we go. So that doesn't look too bad, right? Maybe that's too light. I don't know. I'll go with this for now, right? We can change it later. Okay, so now I want to arrange everything in a row. So let's say, if it's on the nav bar, we probably want everything arranged in a horizontal row. So let's do display flex, right? So I got display flex, and so that means if we had more than one item here, it would all be arranged in a horizontal row, right? And you could put a flex direction row on here too, but this should be the default if we set flex. Now, these are still not in a row because all of the things here are in a list that's inside the navbar. And so that's kind of the arrangement that we're asking people to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to style it. So I'll say navbar UL. So if you have a UL inside the navbar, it's going to be display flex, right? And that should by default be flex direction row, but we can also state that, like just say flex direction row. Okay, so that doesn't look too bad. If we have a list though and it's horizontal, the bullet points look a little awkward, so let's get rid of those. So we'll do list style none, and the bullet points go away. And then ideally I'd want these kind of aligned on the vertical axis, right? So right now the H1 tag here has a bunch of margin at the top and bottom. So this thing is a lot taller with its margin than the links here, and everybody's aligned at the top. So this is the cross axis. And so our cross axis is aligned at flex start. So everybody's, pushed up as high as they can go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say align items. And I'm going to say let's align on the baseline. Now you could do a couple things here. You could do align center. So now we're aligned, on the center, and maybe that looks good to you. I actually kind of like this align baseline, right? So align baseline means align on the baseline of the type. So the baseline is like the line that the text sits on, or like if you're writing on lined paper, it's the line that you would write on. So some characters go below the baseline, right? Like the G and the J and the Y can go below the baseline, right? So I'm going to align everybody on the baseline, and I think that looks pretty good. Let's do a couple more styles. So I'm going to give us this class name of title, and anytime you put that on something, it's going to style the text so it fits kind of nicely on the in the nav bar. So I'm going to say nav bar space title. You're going to be let's do this. Let's say margin, oops, not max resolution. Let's do margin 0, right? And what else do we need here? Oh, I think we need a little bit of padding, right? Actually, it kind of looks okay like that. Do I feel like, why? I think it's because the UL, let's inspect it, right? So I'm going to pull up the inspector here. And that actually doesn't look too bad for maybe a little space around these. It needs a little space around the links, right? But let's imagine if I go to the section, the div nav bar, and there's my styles there. So you can see there's the div. If I get the UL, you notice it has some padding on the left side. That's the green, and then it has margin at the top and bottom. So let's get rid of those. Let's say padding 0, margin 0. Okay, so that doesn't look too bad now, right? And I still need a little bit of space around the outside, especially on the right side or the left side there. I don't want the text to run right up against the edge. So let's give our nav bar a little bit of padding. So this will just go on the container, and then it'll just push inward or push, away from the contents, right? So let's give it like 1 rem of padding, and I think that looks pretty good. Maybe the last step would be to give the links a style. Now again, this doesn't have to look super amazing, like unique. It just has to look reasonable, so anybody that uses our framework can start from a reasonable location. And what we're doing is we're giving them a class name here to create a reasonable nav bar, okay? And the markup that they will follow is the same markup we have here, which is pretty simple and very common, right? A div or any kind of container, and then a list of items that go on the nav bar, right? So let's do one more thing. Let's space these links out, right? So I'll leave that up to you to style, but I'll get you started here. So your challenge now is to customize this nav bar and kind of make it look, give it your own spin and make it look reasonable. Let's style those links. So I'm going to say anytime you have an anchor tag that's in a nav bar, it's going to have, actually let's put anytime you have a list that has an anchor tag inside it, right? Let's give it a little bit of margin. So I'm going to say margin of 1 rem. I think I don't want to have margin at the top and bottom though, but maybe on the left and right. Maybe we should just have margin on the left. Let's do 0 on the top, 0 on the right, 1 rem of margin on the left, and 0. Wait, left, top, bottom. Wait, top, right, bottom, left. There we go. Okay, so how about that? So that looks pretty reasonable. Like that looks like a good place to start. Maybe I have to adjust these colors a little bit, like the blue for the links doesn't pop out enough, right? So, that would be now up to me, and I would go up to my variables up here to handle that, okay? So anyway, so hopefully that gets you started on the nav bar, and your goal now is to style the nav bar and give it some reasonable styles, and you can put your own spin on this and do what you want with it, okay? So thanks for watching, and I hope that helps your CSS projects.